All right, everybody. Thank you for coming to Pittsburgh Prep's webinar here on everything you really need to know about the upcoming digital PSATs and, of course, the digital SATs. We really are going to cover the entire gamut of what you need to know, both as parents and students. So the first part of this webinar is actually addressed to both students and parents and talking about the generalities of the test, the time frame, what the test involves, why it may or may not be important for you, and how it even relates to your college admissions. And then we'll take a quick break after that first half, and parents can actually go if you would like, and students can remain. And the second half is mainly geared towards the students, and we're going to actually learn PSAT and SAT question types and work through the variances so that you students will be prepped and ready to go. And then afterwards, I'll share resources, and then I'll have an open forum for a question and answer session with the time that we have remaining. If you guys have any questions in the meanwhile, as I present the information, you guys can feel free to put your questions in the chat box, and I will attempt to answer them at the time you write them. But if I do not answer them, I will leave those questions and address them at the end of the session. Okay. All right, you guys, really great to see you. My name is Hoon Kim, and I am the director and founder of Pittsburgh Prep, the leading organization for test prep, academic tutoring, and college consulting in the greater region around Pittsburgh and the tri-state region. Of course, we help students all around the world too. Like we have several students in Australia and Spain and India and things of that nature. So good to see you all. All right. So today, let's go through the webinar, and I'd like to give you guys an agenda to begin. So today's agenda is first talking about the PSAT. For the vast majority of you guys in this webinar and those of you guys watching, you'll most likely take the digital PSATs first in October, and or sometime later on the year if you're taking the PSAT 10 or the PSAT 8 or 9. And then afterwards, we'll talk about the formatting of both exams, the PSAT and the SAT digital formatting, which is actually quite different than the paper-based exam. And then we're going to actually go ahead and do some prep work. We're going to look at problems, and I'm going to teach you students on what to expect on the variant different question types and the topics that you will expect on the actual examination. And then we'll leave the space open for Q&A thereafter. So let's get into it, you guys, with a full agenda ahead. All right, so here is a map. And I'd like you guys to take just a couple of seconds to look through the map. I want to tell you that the various numbers associated with the states are the cutoff numbers for students to qualify to be a national merit semifinalist, okay? And so I want to tell you a bit more about what the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test is. And that's essentially what the PSAT is known for, right? The PSAT is also known as the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, okay, NMSQT. And what it does is in your junior year PSATs, if you get a high enough score on your PSAT exam, they will scale your score from a 400 to a 1520. Your maximum PSAT score is a 1520. Okay, that's the equivalent of a perfect score in the SAT is like a 1600, but they only measure to 1520. And they will take your PSAT results and they will scale it to a score up to 224 or so, right? And you can see that depending on where you live, your qualifying score threshold is going to be quite different, right? It's going to be quite different. So I want you to take a look at the various different PSAT scaled scores are and see the differences between the states, okay? Okay. Okay, does everybody see that? All right, so now you can see that here, some states, whoops, where is it? Okay, you can see that some states like Connecticut or Montana, right? So let me circle those states. Like here's Montana for those of you guys who remember your US geography, right? Here is Montana, and Connecticut is actually right over here, right? Sandwiched in between New York and Massachusetts and Rhode Island. You can see that there's a huge disparity between scores, right? So like depending on where you live, you might have to score fairly high, or you could actually score a bit lower, and you would actually qualify to be a finalist for the NMSQT. The PSAT then takes your qualifying score, and then they will award you real money towards college, up to $2,500 to the college of your choice. So you get a real benefit for doing well on your PSATs. There's three reasons for why you want to study and do well in your PSATs, right? Number one is the scholarship money, of which you get 2,500 bucks, right? Number two is it helps you to prepare for the actual SATs, right? It'll actually help you because the digital format of the PSATs is going to give you a familiarity for you to prep for the upcoming digital SATs if you choose to take the digital SATs. And then finally, getting a merit finalist status might be a plus factor for your college admissions application and your status. So you have a lot of reasons for you to prepare and to do your very best on your PSATs. And so if you take a look, here is Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania actually has a slightly higher threshold than most other states with a 218. Generally, the northeastern states have a higher threshold than, say, the Midwest, as you can see from here. And so you have to get about a 218 on your PSATs in order for you to be considered for the scholarship status, right? And what does that translate to for your actual PSAT scores? Well, that's about a 1470 out of 1520. 1460, 1470, around that level. So you have to do really, really well. Essentially, you have to get about 99th percentile in order for you to qualify for that scholarship. Okay. Okay. So now that we've covered the ins and outs of PSATs and how it's used, let's talk about some of the exam specifics. Okay. Oh, let me go ahead and clear all my annotations. All right. So the PSATs and the SATs are administered on the same dates that they have always been administered, despite the fact that they will be digital from here onwards. The PSATs for all of you juniors this year will be held in October. Usually it's held like mid-October during school day. And so your school at like Seneca Valley or North Allegheny, they'll take a day off on like October 16th, which might be a Wednesday, and they'll just allocate that whole day for you to take the PSATs as you come in the morning, and you might have the rest of the day off. For some of you others who don't have an in-school PSATs, you might have to register and take the test on a Saturday, possibly even at a different school, but your guidance counselor will let you know your options. For the SATs, they will be administered in the exact same 7 administration dates that you know the paper-based tests have been administered. And so we'll look at the timeline of exactly when the SATs is going to turn digital in a future slide, which is coming up shortly. Okay. For those of you who take the PSATs as a 10th grader or a 9th grader, or even as an 8th grader, you might take it sometime in the spring as well. So your lower grade level PSATs might be given at a different time than the October one. But just note that the October PSATs is the one that counts towards your National Merit Scholarship. Okay. Okay. The digital-based PSAT and the SAT, you guys, can be taken on your own laptop, but it can also be taken on a school computer. So remember this, you guys. If you do take it on your own laptop, note that you'll have to download an app and you'll have to bring it with you to the school. But again, check with your school and their policies. Your counselor is going to give you a good idea on what needs to be done. Schools like Hampton already ordered like 200 laptops specifically for their students to take. And they also have designated times for students to come in. And they also have a very good scheduling system that allows the students to know when to take it and where. So always check with your high school counselor to see exactly how that is going to be done this fall. Calculators are allowed in all of the math sections. For those of you who maybe love math or maybe don't love math, this may be a joyous occasion because there is no longer a no calculator section. And furthermore, you are allowed to bring your own calculator or you'll always have access to an online scientific calculator, otherwise known as Desmos. You guys should all be very familiar with it. You can access it right on the app itself. I have taken SATs and the PSATs in the digital format so far, and I haven't seen any difference between using the online calculator or the TI-84 plus machines or the Casio CX90s or whatever, right? And so it's just up to you and your preference. I want to also talk a little bit further in great detail on the exam format. And the fact that the digital PSATs and the digital SATs, you guys, is section adaptive. Once again, it's an adaptive test. It is not a linear test, meaning as you do better or as you do worse on the test, proceeding sections are going to change and give you either harder or easier questions so that it'll better measure your true abilities and your skill sets. And we'll see what that looks like in the next slide or two, okay? And then we'll talk about the timeline so that you can prepare accordingly, right? For many of you guys, I know some of you guys are preparing really, really hard for the upcoming paper-based SATs. That's going to happen, I think, in about a week or two, right? For the October examination administration. There is the paper-based November and the December tests. So for those of you that are thinking potentially about taking the digital SATs, that'll happen in March, but once again, your PSAT is going to happen digitally this October. Okay, so let's take a look at the digital PSATs and the SATs and its format. Okay, the old SATs had reading section, writing section, and 2 math sections. So in a way, they had the same 4 sections, right? But the digital PSATs and the SATs are now much, much shorter in length. So your first section is going to have a combination of reading and writing, and they're going to give you 27 questions in 32 minutes. Out of the 27 questions, you guys, 2 questions will be experimental. So actually, just 25 of those questions are going to count towards your true score. And the same thing is going to be in the second section. But remember, the second section is going to be adaptive depending on how you do in your first section. So we'll see that more clearly in the next slide. So after you take section 1 of reading and writing, spending 32 minutes answering 27 questions, you're going to go right into section 2, where you will answer 27 questions once again in 32 minutes. And then after that, you'll take a 10-minute break. There will be a physical proctor as you take the test in the designated room that you'll take this exam with your laptop or with a student laptop. However, the timing itself will be automatic, meaning there'll be a timer that'll show you exactly how much time you have left, and it'll stop automatically and start when you're ready for the next sections, okay? And your 10-minute break is also assigned, and that's automated. And then after that, you'll take your 2 mathematical sections next to each other, right out one after the other, okay? So in math, you'll have the first section answering 22 questions in 35 minutes. And in reality, you're actually answering 20 questions plus 2 experimental. And then in section 2, you'll do the same. 20 questions that count plus 2 experimental. Now, some of you guys may want to know, like, will I know which questions are experimental or not? The answer is no, you won't. So the experimental questions are just going to be, they're just going to ask you them throughout and peppered throughout. And so you won't actually know which one's which. So you just have to try your absolute best and answer all the questions as best as you can. Okay. Okay, so good questions. In the reading and writing section, all of the questions here are going to be multiple choice, okay? And in the math sections, you'll have a combination of multiple choice and grid-ins, which we'll see in a little bit, okay? And grid-ins, okay? So, and the grid-ins this year, starting from next year onwards for the digital SATs and for October PSATs, they will allow you to put in things like negative numbers, which is not something that you used to be able to do. But the power of technology is here, you guys. The College Board has finally caught up to the 20th century, and and you are now allowed to put in negative valuations and grid-ins. All right, very, very good questions. All right, so let's take a look at how the adaptive part of the digital PSAT and the digital SAT is created. All right. So the way this works, you guys, is that once you begin your test, right? Let's say you're, reading comp or the writing section, right? You'll have, let's say, 27 questions here. Okay. And it'll be a random mix of easy, medium, and hard questions with 2 experimental questions, right? And depending on how you do, you'll either get a section 2 that is either harder or easier, right? And we have some validation because I've not only taken the digital SATs just to see what it's like, but also I'm getting feedback from researchers, especially my colleagues in the international sphere, where the international students have already taken their digital SATs, and I'm getting a lot of data. It seems like the threshold is approximately 16 to 18 questions in the first section that will determine whether you get the harder section for number 2, so section two, number 2, or an easier section. So again, depending on how you perform in section number 1, your section number 2 is going to dictate your maximum score. Now, if you get a harder section in section number 2, right? If you get a harder section, then your maximum score and your minimum score is already defined. Meaning, like, if you just depending on how you do in the second section, right? Even if you bomb it, you already have a threshold score set. We think from our research, having taken the test and really doing the research and talking with our colleagues and running through the data, it seems like the lowest score is about a 640. Again, I don't have the actual data. We won't know until the digital SATs and the PSATs actually comes stateside, right? Starting from next month onwards. But from what I can best tell here at Pittsburgh Prep and doing our research, because we are a research-backed organization, right? We do a tremendous amount of work to determine exactly what you need to know. It seems like about the minimum score set, if you get a very hard section 2, is a 640. And of course, if you get the vast majority of the questions correct in section number 2, you will get an 800 as your maximum score, right? And so that's a good thing. And so, like, students who take the test, for you guys, you really want to come out of the test and say, you know what, that was a really hard test. Because what does that mean, right? Like, if you come out of the test and you came out and you're like, wow, that was really difficult, that's actually really good, because that means that your second section was a very, very hard set, which means that you got the harder section for section number 2, which means that you'll maximize your score set, right? Now, on the flip side of the equation, if you came out of the test and you're like, man, that was like super easy, like I got nothing but easy questions the entire time, right? That's probably not a good sign, because then Your maximum score set is going to be anywhere from a 200 to about a 640. There's only so much you can do if your second section is an easier set because your maximum score set is already set and you really can't go much higher than that. Okay. Now, there is so much more involved with the way that the adaptive testing works. And I'm not going to go into it, but I just going to tell you because the test is just very different. Like they use what's called item response theory. And in the world of testing, that means that each question actually has different weighted value than another. So like for those of you guys who are used to the paper-based SATs, and for you parents, if you guys remember taking the paper-based SATs, right? Every question had the same value as any other. So like if you got question number 1 right, or if you got question number 25 right, they had the same value, right? Whereas on the actual digital PSATs and the SATs, you guys, they don't. Some questions actually have more value than others. And so this is just really important to know, right? You can't determine which one's going to have more value than not. So for you test takers, it doesn't really matter one way or another. And so that's why I don't really need you to think about this and it doesn't really matter. However, I just want you to know that it's possible theoretically that you could potentially get maybe 5, 6, 7 questions wrong in the second section and still may end up with a perfect score just because of how the item response theory works. And perhaps by the time you've already answered the questions, they already know your true score set as 800 or close thereof. And any questions that you get right or wrong makes very little difference, right? And so just keep that in mind, okay? Again, I'll have much more information once the actual digital test arrives stateside. But for now, this is a very, very good understanding of how the sections are adaptive and how the whole test is really geared to find your true score in a meaningful way. Okay. Okay. And for those of you guys coming in late, please feel free to post your questions in the chat box, and I'd be more than happy to address them in both real time and or at the end of the webinar when we finish the review. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the timeline for the digital PSATs and the SATs, right? And so obviously 2023 and the spring has already passed, so we're already in the fall. So the international set of students are already taking the digital SATs and the PSATs. So we're actually getting a lot of data from them, and so we're learning a lot. But for all of you, all of us, the fall October PSATs is going to be digital, right? And then starting from, and then of course the October, November, and December administrations of the SATs are going to remain paper-based. And so now for you students and parents, right, you have a strategy, right? Like, should we double down and really, really try to get our best scores in the upcoming paper-based exams? Or if we're either facing stagnancy, or perhaps you've already reached your goal, but you want to reach a higher goal, but you're really busy in November, December, like you have soccer practice and you have your internship and, you know, you got a lot of things going on. You got prom committee to attend, right? And you know, take care of your baby sister or whatever, and babysit them or whatever. You might be super busy this fall. And so if you are, then you might want to be looking at the upcoming digital exams, the SATs later on in 2024. And that's going to happen in March, May, June, and up to August and October of next year, right? And so for all of you students that are juniors now, right, you have a lot of options. Like in some ways, you guys are guinea pigs, right? Because you the exam is changing, and you know, you may not want to prepare for both the paper-based exam and the digital-based exam, especially after today, after we go through the prep, right? And look at the various different kind of question types, and you might be like, that's not it for me. Or you might feel like, hey, you know what? Like this might be good for me because both the digital PSATs and the SATs is actually going to give you more time, and the passages and the written work is going to be a lot shorter. And I'll talk to you more about that when we do the prep. So you'll get a very, very good understanding of what to expect. Okay. Okay. And so again, once again, you guys, for those of you who came in late, I'm going to be recording this so that I'll send this video over to you guys so you have it as a resource. And this will be a blog entry as well, and I'll share that so that you have the proper information to make the right decisions moving forward. Okay. Okay. At this time, before we move on into the actual PSATs and SAT content review, is there any questions? Are there any questions that I can field at this time? Some of you guys had already emailed and asked several questions, so I do have those questions ready to go to share and answer at the end of the webinar. But is there anything that you guys have at this time? And for parents, you guys are free to leave because we're going to actually go through the PSATs and the SATs content review. I'll have the recording ready for you so that you can see the Q&A section at the end. Or you guys can stay as well and learn a few things about the PSATs and SATs. So does anybody have any questions at this time? Feel free to chat it on the chat box or just ask away or raise your hands or however way you'd like to do it. Any questions at all? Awesome. All right, we got a couple of questions. Okay. Is the digital first question from Anoop? What's up, Anoop? All right, he asks, is the digital PSAT and the digital SAT test identical? The answer is yes, they are identical. Same time frame, same number of questions, same sections, same adaptability. The only thing different is the actual scaling and the scoring, and of course its purpose. The PSAT's purpose is to really measure how you do against everybody else so you can qualify for a scholarship. And then for obviously the SATs, it's to predict your first year college success, and it functions to help with your college admissions, right? Okay, very, very good question. All right, another question from Bianca. Hi, Bianca. All right, Bianca asks, can you repeat the PSAT and SAT exam specifics? Yes, of course, of course. So let me go backwards into the slides. And oh, here it is. All right, so I'll leave this slide for you guys to refer to. Whoops. Whoops, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, here is the digital PSATs and the SAT specifics, okay? All right, Nilesh asks, are there accommodations for students? Yes, absolutely. The digital PSATs and SATs has the same accommodations for students. And so, depending upon your IEP and your historical record of getting extra time or, whatever the case may be, you want to go through the school counselor and really, really go through the application process with both the College Board and or the ACTs. They will require a report and a psychological testing or an IEP or 504 plan, and they will approve you. That whole process, you guys, takes anywhere from like 3 weeks to 3 months. And so for those of you guys that are looking for accommodations, please take the step now so that you can get the approval to take the test with the accommodations. The most common level of accommodation is a time and a half, and they will give you time and a half on the digital side of things, and it'll be automated. Also they have other options, right? They have larger format reading. If you also don't like to take the test via the screen for some reason or another, and there's a reason for that, again, talk to your high school counselor. The College Board will accommodate and give you a paper-based linear test that is non-adaptive, but it'll have the similar format as the digital test, but just on paper. They will give you that as an option. Again, I don't know exact specifics at this time because they haven't published that data, but they did say that they will accommodate students as best as they can, and things have not changed in terms of what the process is needed in order for students to get that accommodation. Sometimes students, the most common is the time and a half accommodation, but some students get double time, 100% extra time. And also some students get time and then also extra days. Like they can do, reading and writing sections on one day, and then they can do math sections on others. It just really kind of depends on the very different types of accommodations that they are qualified for. So really, really good questions. Okay. All right. Yes, Usha asks, are there any practice exams for the digital PSATs? Okay, so I'll share with you resources at the very end of our webinar here. There are practice exams for the digital PSATs and the digital SATs. So College Board has officially given one practice test for the digital PSAT. It's a terrible, terrible number. But as with all SAT exam changes, whenever they make these changes, they don't share a lot of exams. So there's only one digital PSATs to practice from. My feeling is for you guys to take that digital PSATs. Go to the College Board, download what's called the Blue Book app, and you'll be able to take the PSATs and the diagnostic test. Okay, and that's it. Now there is a linear paper-based version of the digital PSATs that you can download and take, but it's the same questions from the digital test that's adaptive. So I would advise you guys not to take it, again, unless you have accommodation needs, right? Then obviously take the linear-based paper-based test, but take the digital-based PSATs, and there's only one practice for that. And so do with it as you wish, right? Meaning review the answers afterwards, go through it, gain familiarity with the formatting. Boom. There are, however, 4 digital SATs that you can take through the Blue Book app, and that again can be downloaded through the College Board website that I'll share with you at the end of the slideshow here. For the digital PSATs, right, depending on how you do, my recommendation is take the diagnostic digital PSATs to see how you do from now until October 16th or the 22nd or whenever you take it in school. See how you do, right? And then depending on where you're at, you may want to practice more. And if you want to practice more, then my recommendation is to start to make headway into the 4 digital SATs and start to take those. Okay? And I'll share with you more about what's in the individual sections. We're going to spend the vast majority of our time looking at the reading and the writing sections because honestly, most of the math section is generally similar. There's just a couple of changes that's not too bad from our research. And so you can really make headway into the 4 digital SATs and start to practice using those, okay? But just remember that if you start to use the digital SATs to prepare for your PSATs, and let's say you take 2 or 3 or maybe even all 4 of them, well, by the time you take your March digital SATs, if you choose to do so, or if that's the only time that you're available to do so in the spring, then you are not going to have an official licensed exam to take digitally at that time, right? So you want to kind of like understand that and balance it out, right? I'll share with you later on again the work that we are doing here at Pittsburgh Prep and our question bank and software learning system called Testing for Good. We are actively working on that site to bring you extra exams and extra questions so you can practice for the upcoming digital SATs. But the revamp of our Testing for Good question bank is not going to be ready for the October-based PSATs. Okay, so hopefully that answered your question there, Usha. All right. All right, these are great. More questions coming in. Anya asks, will the format for reading sections be similar to Khan Academy, where your screen will split into the passage and questions? So, I have to tell you, Anya, that the digital SATs and the PSATs that I took, I didn't have any split screens. And I also did not go into Khan Academy and practice there, so it's my fault, but I'm going to take a look at it after this webinar. But I didn't see any split screens. The passages and the questions are so short that everything fits nicely in the app on one screen. And so it was relatively straightforward. You have the ability to annotate and highlight, and I used it a couple of times just to see what it looks like, but it seemed like it took more time, then it was of benefit to the test taker. But again, as we move forward and see how that gets optimized, I'll have more information and more recommendations on how to take the test in the best way possible. Okay. All right. Of course. All right. Oh, okay, good. Let's see. Another question. All right. Are there any online recording? Okay, Aditya asks, are there any online recordings where we can go over the problems? And if so, where can I find them? Well, you're in luck, Aditya, because we are actually going to go through the section, the actual questions together. And we are going to do that after a quick, let's take a 4-minute break. It's 7:36. These are wonderful questions, you guys. Let's take a 4-minute break. And when we come back, we'll start promptly at 7:40. Grab some water, grab a pen and paper, and we're going to actually do test prep together, you guys, for the next, I'd say 30 to 45 minutes. And then we'll leave open the rest of that time period for Q&A. All right? All right, go, go, go. Take a break, you guys. All right, you guys, welcome back. Hopefully, you guys had a great break from all the PSAT and SAT knowledge and its structure. Let's go ahead and engage in test prep together. All right. All right. So the PSATs and SATs has the same question types. And so, in the same timing, same section. So everything's going to remain the same. Okay. And so everything that I tell you today and everything we go over today, everything I teach you, I want you to take good notes, because if you take the digital based SATs later on next year, you're going to be facing the same types, okay? And of course, you'll solidify everything that we do here by taking your own practice exams and such. But I'm going to give you a really, really good, thorough, comprehensive overview of everything you need to know so that you can do your very best for the upcoming PSATs, and then of course for the digital SATs later on. So let's take a look. So for the reading-based question types, so remember you guys, your first two sections that you take on the digital PSAT or the SATs is going to have a mixture of reading and writing questions, okay? And they are broken down in numbers of these categories, all right? So you're going to get a tremendous amount of evidence-based questions, okay? And we're going to see examples of these questions and I'm going to have you do them in real time, okay, you guys? Nothing like spending a Thursday evening with me at Pittsburgh Prep doing test prep, right? Like what else would you want to be doing right now, right? And so we'll see what evidence questions look like. And they're separated between two categories, textual evidence questions and data-based evidence questions, right? And you'll have a majority of the questions on evidence-based questions, okay? And then you'll have a couple of questions based upon purpose or main idea, which you guys already know what that's like, right? And then you'll have a couple of questions on inferences or analyticals. They are usually questions that ask you for hypotheticals, like what would the author say if, right? Or how would the argument be strengthened or weakened? Which of the answer traces would weaken the author's position that, right? Those are the typical questions you'll see. And then you get a brand new question type called the synthesis question types, where they will have a bulleted list of information, and you have to synthesize the information that they give you in order for you to make the proper conclusions. This is actually a very new question type, but not a new question type that we haven't seen before. You know, we tutor students for GMATs and LSATs and GREs, and the synthesis types of questions are present in these grad school level exams, but they have now made their way into your college entry exams, right? And we'll see that together as well. Okay. From what I can tell from doing the research, you guys, question types tend to be grouped together. So this is really important for you guys to know, right? So whereas on the paper-based SATs or the PSATs, you get just variant different questions, right? Every other question, right? They're very rarely grouped together, right? Like in a reading passage, you'll get a purpose question, and then next you get a factual question, and then you'll get an evidence question, and then you'll get an analytical question, and then you might get another purpose question, right? Like you might get a bunch of these questions, right, in random order, but it seems to me that for the digital-based SATs, question types are grouped together. So when you take your test, you might start off with 6 textual evidence-based questions. And then you'll get 2 purpose questions. And then you might get maybe 5 data-based questions. And then you might get 5 writing questions, which we'll see in the next slides. And then you might end up with 1 or 2 inference questions and maybe 2 synthesis questions, right? And so just kind of expect that when it arrives on test day, okay? And at least this is what I'm seeing from the practice that I've been doing, okay? It may be different on the actual test, and if it is, please let me know, right? So that I can really take what your feedback is from taking the digital-based PSATs, okay? All right, so let's take a look at a particular type of question together. All right, let's go ahead and tackle this question. I'd like all of you guys to work on this question. I'll give you guys a minute. Okay, I'll give you guys a minute. And I let out a poll so that you guys can all answer the question. Let's see, we have about 20, 30 student attendees. And so I'd like to see all of you guys give it your best attempt. All right. Remember, you have plenty of time. You have like 50% more time than you would, say, taking the ACTs. Okay, you just have a tremendous amount of time. So there's a lot more opportunity for you to think deeper and more meaningfully with your answers. Okay. All right, we are getting some answers. I'll give you another 30 seconds, another 5 seconds here, you guys, and I'm going to end the poll. All right, and time. All right, let me share the results here with you guys. The vast majority of us, 13 out of 15 respondents, said answer choice B. We had a couple of students who chose D. So let's take a look at this together, okay? Right. It's a school night, but I'm still gonna choose a call on you guys to read the passage. But guys, this is more based on strategy, so I'd like you to take notes, okay? First and foremost, for the digital-based PSATs and the SATs, okay, this is really, really important. I want you guys to read the question first. This is very, very important. Number one order of business is always read the question first. If you guys remember, our method of tackling the reading section on the paper-based SATs was to virtually ignore the questions first and read the passages first, right? Because there's no way you could memorize 10 to 11 questions and then answer those questions by reading the passages second. Like that just doesn't work. It's too many to remember. However, on the digital-based examinations, you guys, they're going to give you one passage and one question 52 times. Once again, for the reading and the writing section of your digital-based SATs and PSATs, they're going to give you one passage and one question each for each of those passages 52 times. So you will no longer have a long 750 worded passage followed by 10 or 11 questions. You're actually going to get one short passage that's about 150 words long, approximately. And you're going to get one question. And so my absolute official recommendation is for you to read the question first so that you know exactly what you're looking for and then tackle the passage thereafter. Got it? So I gave you a lot of tips there for you guys to follow, right? So let's tackle this together. Okay, I'm just going to call on somebody randomly. Anvi, you want to go ahead and read the question for us?
Yeah, sure. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase?
Yeah, so whenever you get a question that just completes the text, right? Which of these categories on V do you think this falls under?
Evidence?
Yeah, and is there any data involved here on V?
No.
Right, so this would be a textual evidence question. And on V, what did you choose as your answer?
B, inspecting?
That's exactly right. Inspecting is the right answer. And if we read the passage, right, it says, particle physicists like Iona Holloway Ars and Ida L. Kadra spend much of their time blank what is invisible to the naked eye. And here's a big hint. You see this colon? From our grammar lessons, we know that the colon is going to exemplify or define the previous clause. And it says, using sophisticated technology, they closely examine the behavior of subatomic particles, the smallest detectable parts of matter. And so inspecting is the best choice to put in here. There's really nothing else that makes sense, right? Some of you guys might have thought deciding what is indivisible, but there isn't a decision that's being made here, right? You guys, they're just examining. And so they're not making a decision. And so D does not fit here. Okay. Okay. So we have seen an evidence text-based question in the reading section. So now let's go ahead and take a look at yet another type together. Really, really good job, Anvi. All right, so here's another problem. Let's go ahead and tackle this question. And as you do this, you guys actively think, okay, would this fall under, and have proper reasoning. And you'll see that this is a totally different question type in the reading section than the paper-based SATs. And I kind of love it. You may not, but I kind of love it. All right, take your time. Go, go, go. All right, and the poll has been launched. I'd like you guys to take the time to vote. All right, Matthias, you ask, is this paper-based format the same as the digital-based format? The answer is no. They're totally different. They're absolutely different. Yep, take your time, you guys. All right, I'm gonna give you guys time. And when you're ready, go ahead and answer on the poll. All right, let's do this. All right, let me share results. Okay. All right, so the vast majority of us chose C. So, and with a couple of you guys choosing answer choice D. All right, so let's go ahead and tackle this question type together. And if you guys notice, guys, on the digital SATs and the BSATs, there is poetry. So I don't know if you love, I love poetry. I'm a big fan of poets and I think they're wonderful. But if you are not a fan, you still have to understand how to interpret them. And they're not really too bad. They're not bad. You just have to really interpret it and translate it as you would as any other passage. So let's tackle this one together. All right, let me call on somebody just random here. All right, Anoop. Anoop, what do we do first, Anoop? Oh, Anoop. Bianca? Bianca, are you there?
Hi.
Hi, Bianca, what do we do first?
Well, I decided to read the question first.
Very good. I love it. Let's read it.
All right. Based on the text, in what way is the human mind like a flower? So
Yeah.
we're trying to figure out what the author is trying to use the metaphor of a flower for.
Yeah. Very, very good. And so let's go ahead and read the question. It says, I mean, the prompt, it says the following.
The following poem is from Ezra Pound's 1909 poem Hymn Number 3, based on the work of Marcantonio Flamino.
Right, very, very good. And so that just gives you an example. I mean, it's just an introduction of where this poem comes from. So now let's go ahead and read it. But remember, we want to read it with the question in mind, right? How is the human mind like a flower? So there's probably some sort of analogy or metaphor that's going to be used in relating the two together. So Bianca, let's get to some poetry.
As fragile and lovely flower unfolds its gleaming foliage on the breast of the fostering earth, if the dew and the rain draw it forth, so doth my tender mind flourish if it be fed with the sweet dew of the fostering spirit. Lacking this, it beginneth straightway to languish, even as a floweret born upon dry earth, if the dew and the rain tend it not.
Wonderful. Bianca, you read it like a poet. Very, very good. Solid cadence. Now, Bianca, let's translate this together, can we? What's the author saying in the first stanza here as fragile? And remember, guys, you don't need to know all the poetry terms like stanzas and onomatopoeia and alliteration. Like, you don't need to know any of that stuff. All you have to do is tackle it like as if it is any old passage. Now, Bianca, what does this mean? As lovely and fragile a flower unfolds its gleaming foliage, if the dew and rain draw it forth. Like, what's the function of this first stanza?
It's basically saying that if a flower has what it needs to uh has like dew and rain, then it'll like blossom.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If a flower unfolds or if it blossoms, right, it's because they have dew and rain. Right, very, very good. So there's like some food there, right, for it to be able to do that. And then Bianca, the author then says, so doth, this is how people used to speak in 1909, right? So
Yeah.
doth my tender mind flourish, if it be fed with the sweet dew of the fostering spirit. What's the author trying to say over here?
Well, first I actually recognize that it's sort of like similar to the last passage,
Yeah. Mhm.
stanza. Sorry.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just like the flower unfolding.
it says that that my tender mind flourish, which means like my mind will also like sort of blossom and like be nourished by like if I get like sweet dew of the fostering spirit, which is basically like sort of the nourishment like the dew and rain.
That's exactly right. Bianca, you interpreted that absolutely perfectly. Now, to drive the message home even further, the author says, look, if I lack all of this, then what's going to happen?
It it'll like sorry.
Mhm.
It'll like become worse. It'll
That's
just
right.
be like a flower born upon the dry earth, which is basically like saying it'll be like nothing ever like I was my mind has never been nourished at all.
That's
If
exactly right. Yeah, it'll go into languish and it'll dry out. And so it needs that nourishment, right? Very, very good. Really fantastic. And so, Bianca, what would you say is the best answer to the question?
I chose answer C.
That's exactly right. It requires proper nourishment in order to thrive. And last question, Bianca, what do you think this category falls under?
This category I believe falls over under like inferences because it says based on the text, in what way is the human mind like a flower?
That's exactly right. Very, very good. And like I said, you guys, you'll get different variances of hypotheticals, analyticals, or strengthen and weakeners, okay? All right, very good, Bianca. Nice job. All right, let's tackle one more question type. We're not covering the purpose question types, you guys, because you already know what the main idea is. So it's not, you know, what I mean, like that's just normal. You guys have done that many, many years. You guys even do that in regular school, right? So I'm not going to cover that. It's pretty straightforward. But let's take a look at the synthesis questions. We actually have an incredible lesson on how to tackle synthesis questions. But for now, it's good for you guys to just get introduced on what they look like. So here it is. Boom. Okay, there's a lot of words, you guys, but it's nothing you can't handle. So I want you to guys to take your time and go ahead and answer the question. All right, go, go, go. All right, and I've launched the poll once more. Again, take your time. All right. And as the questions get a bit more difficult, and especially with unfamiliar formatting of the question types, things going to be a little bit wonky for you at this stage, right? But do your best here and try to really, really interpret what's given and answer the question to the best of your abilities, okay? All right, you guys, the vast majority have answered, and I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results with you guys. I want you to take a look at this. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So looks like about 64% of us answered answer choice D, whereas 36% of us have answered choice A, and B and C were eliminated. So nice job. Okay, so let me choose somebody again random here so that we can move forward and try to understand these types of questions. So Karthik, are you there?
Yeah,
Hey, Karthik, how you doing?
good. How are you?
Good, good. Karthik, want to go ahead and tackle this question?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So should I like read it first?
Yeah.
Okay. The student wants to describe unwoven light to an audience unfamiliar with Sioux Sunny Park. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish the goal?
All right. So, Karthik, we know what the question's asking, right? Hey,
Yeah.
if you are unfamiliar with this artist, how could you describe this artist given the information, given the bulleted information, right?
Mhm.
And so let's go ahead and read the prompt. Number 25, it says,
Okay. Which
oh, it's supposed to be when researching. I don't know why it says that. So there's a typo. So
When researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Sioux Sunny Park is a Korean American artist who uses light as her primary medium of expression. She created her work Unwoven Light in 2013. Unwoven Light creates
okay.
featured Unwoven Light featured a chain link fence fitted with iridescent plexiglass tiles.
Mm,
When light passes through the fence, colorful prisms formed.
good. All right, Karthik, very, very good reading. So you can see that each of these bulleted lists really share distinctive elements and facts about the artist, right?
Yeah.
And so to tackle synthesis questions like this, you guys, what I want you to do is take note of the author's intent in every bullet point. And that way, you're not going to actually miss out, categorically speaking, on what is important. You with me so far? Okay, so Karthik, we're going to do this exercise together. There's a lot more with these synthesis questions, and they're actually really fun. I feel like these are the more fun questions. And as you get deeper into these question types, I can show you how to tackle them so you can absolutely crush them. But for today's lesson, I just want to show you the importance of identifying the author's intended takeaway for every bullet point. So Karthik, in the first bullet point, and I want everybody to think about this, okay? In the first bullet point, what's the most important part that we should take away, or parts that we should take away? Karthik, what do you think in the first bullet point?
Oh, like who the artist is, and then
Yeah, who's the
like how she
artist?
expresses how she expresses her works.
Yeah, exactly. So who's the artist? Sue Sunny Park, right?
Yeah,
And then what else? What else is really important in here?
how she uses light as her medium of expression.
And is that it? Is that the only thing that's important here?
And then she's a Korean American artist.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Her being Korean American is also really important, right? Like it's her ethnicity or defines her identity or culture, right? And just like you guys will share your cultural identity when you write your college essays. I know I said college essays. It's about a year or two away for some of you guys, but it's coming up, right? It's important. The name, Karthik, you like really hit the nail on the head. And I want you to really understand exactly how to tackle these problem types, right? The name, the identity and the culture, and the medium, right? That's really important in this first bullet point. There's a lot to take away. All right, Karthik, nice job. Let's go to the second bullet point. What's important in the second bullet point?
The name of her piece, Unwoven Light, and then it was in 2013.
That's exactly right. In 13 and its title as Unwoven Light. Very, very good. Now, what's the third point's most important thing?
It featured chain link fences and
Yeah.
the plexiglass tiles.
That's right. It has a fence and tiles. Like I don't exactly know what this looks like, but it's got some kind of cool multimedia makeup, right?
Mhm.
And then finally, in the last bullet point, what's really important?
The color prisms, and then
That's exactly right.
would you say like light maybe passing through?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like we already have the fence and the tiles, and we know that the artist is going to work with lights and that how colorful prisms are going to come about. So I think the most important part of the fourth point is the colorful prisms. Now, guys, I hope you guys can truly understand how synthesis questions work, right? Taking the main intentional takeaways of each bullet point is going to help you to understand the main takeaway, right? And so for those of you guys who had answered your original answer choices, you probably want to change your answer because all the items highlighted here are in fact necessary as parts of your descriptive to somebody who may not be familiar with this artist, right? And so all of our answer choices should be what? Karthik, what is the best answer choice here?
Is it D?
D is absolutely correct. And Karthik, what kind of question type is this, please?
Synthesis?
It's a synthesis question. Very, very good. All right, you guys, that was awesome. So, so good, especially for those of you guys that are tackling these question types for the first time. You guys are tackling it like a veteran already. Remember, all the work that you've already done here at Pittsburgh Prep and all the work that you've already done on your own in preparing for the test on the SATs or the ACTs, even if it's a paper-based version, you still have the inherent understanding of how to tackle these standardized exams. So I want you to know that you have the ability and the skill set to adapt to these question types, okay? All right, so really, really good job, you guys. So now that we've looked at the reading question types, let's take a look at the writing or the English question types, okay? And the breakdown for the writing question types are as follows. In grammar, you'll have approximately 4 questions, and it's a little bit light on pure grammar questions, but they'll test you on all of the categoricals of grammar that you already know from working with us at Pittsburgh Prep or from your AP Lang class or just general grammatical knowledge, right? And they involve major categorical types of clauses and phrases and subject-verb agreements and tenses and pronouns and modifiers and idioms and logic and parallels, oh my, right? And so you still have to be a master of grammar in order for you to attain your best scores, okay? And then you'll have a couple of questions that are what we call structure or function questions, right? And these are typical questions that ask you things like, what's the function of line 3? Or how is the passage generally structured, right? Oh, there's an intro, and then there's a claim, and then there's a counterclaim, right? And understanding those types is going to help you to prepare for them. And then finally, you'll have transitional questions, transitional words that fit the logical development of the passage passage, and you'll get about 2 of those as well. And just like all the other question types, from my gathering and our research here at Pittsburgh Prep, it seems like all the questions are grouped together as well. So, after maybe 8 for the first evidence question types in reading, you might get 4 grammar questions thereafter, and then you'll get 3 main idea questions, and then you'll get maybe 2 structure questions, and so on and so forth. Okay, they tend to be grouped together. Okay, so enough talking. Let's get into looking at a couple of these example problems together. Okay, so let's tackle the first one. All right, there you go. Let's go ahead and tackle this one together. You guys are doing great, by the way. You guys are doing great. Okay. And the poll has been launched. So again, take your time, you guys. We have 2 more questions that we will review together, and then we'll leave open the rest of the time here as a Q&A forum. Woohoo, we got some people with the quick draw. Again, take your time. When you're ready, go ahead and answer, okay? All right, we're getting some unanimous answers here. Wow, this is really looking good. You guys are making me proud, my students. You guys are making me proud over here. All right, really great job. Let me share the results. Looks like we had unanimously voted for answer choice D. All right, let's see how to tackle these question types. All right. Again, just randomly, I'm just picking Pranav. Pranav, are you there? Pranav? Oh. Minnie, are you there, Minnie?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Minnie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Minnie, good to see you. Let's go ahead and tackle number 20 together. Minnie?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and tackle number 20 together. Go ahead.
Like other amphibians, the wood frog.
No, Minnie, what did we say? We're gonna do first.
Read the question.
Read the question. You broke our promise already. This is not good. Minnie, let's read the question first.
Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English?
Very, very good. It's a pretty general question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just asking, hey, listen, can you apply the rules of grammar properly to the question of the prompt above? And so there's not much you can do, and you're going to get about 4 or 5 of these questions in a row. All right, so Minnie, let's go ahead and read the prompt.
Like other amphibians, the wood frog is unable to generate its own heat. So during periods of sub-freezing temperatures, by producing large amounts of glucose, a sugar that helps prevent damaging ice from forming inside its cells.
And Minnie, what did you choose? Because if you look at the answer choices, these are all verbs, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're all in different tenses, aren't they?
Yes.
Had survived would be a past perfect tense. Survived would be a past simple. Would survive would be a hypothetical. And survives would be a simple present. And so which one did you choose and why?
D.
And D is the right answer. Very, very good. Why? ¿Por qué? Talk to me.
Well, for me, I just like whenever you put it in, it makes the most sense and matches the tense of the other verbs in the passage.
Perfect. I love it. So, guys, Minnie hit the nail right on the head. She said, not only is the other verb in the sentence a present tense, but when she plugs it back in and reads the passage with the word plugged in, it makes sense. And so it's a really good way of double checking your answers, right? You guys, sometimes we forget the most rudimentary aspects of test taking, like double checking. And so make sure to read the sentence or the prompt with your answer choice so that it makes the best sense. And so, Minnie, which category would this fall under?
Grammar.
Yeah, exactly. And under grammar, more specifically, you can see that it falls under tenses and also parallel construction, right? And so you can have more than one category being tested all at once. Okay, very, very good job, you guys. We're nearing the end of our prep review. So let's do like two more question types, all right? All right. Here is another example of a writing question type. So take your time and go ahead and answer the question as best as you can. For those of you guys who are brand new, please feel free to DM me or send me your email, and I'll include you so that I can send you the recording and send you resources for you to prep properly. Okay, so feel free to do that, you guys, if you're brand new to Pittsburgh Prep. Okay, go ahead and email me and DM me your contact information, and I'll be sure to send you the recording as well as the resources so you can start to prep for the upcoming PSATs and the digital SATs. All right, we got some awesome, awesome answer choices coming on, and looks like this is yet another unanimous choice. So let's go ahead and share these results. Boom. Looks like we had all chosen answer choice B. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. All right, who am I gonna pick? Jin, are you there?
Yes.
All right, Jin, let's go ahead and tackle question 21.
Okay. Which choice completes the text with the most logical transition?
Yeah, very, very good. Nice job. So we know what to look for. It just needs to complete the text with a transitional word, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and read the prompt.
All right. The highly toxic and psychotropic wildcat mushroom Amanita muscaria has a distinctive bright red color, peppered with light pockets of white foam. Blank found in North America and has only been recorded in western Alaska. All other red cat mushrooms in the con something United States have been the close cousin Amanita rubescens, another toxic variant for human consumption.
Jin, I'm super impressed by the fact that you are able to pronounce the scientific names of these mushrooms, dude. That's awesome. Okay, so Jin, you're not like a mushroom hunter or forager, are you?
Uh, no.
No, okay. I just got into it actually. I found so many mushrooms this year. Like I'm not a native Pennsylvanian. I'm originally from New York. Guys, like I took a bunch of like hikes during the summer and fall, early fall, and I found tons of mushrooms and I was like always interested in them, but I found like chicken of the woods, I found chanterelles, and I plucked them and I cooked them and I ate them. This is the first time I did it. It was like the most amazing thing. I can't wait till I do more of it. But anyway, Jen, really, really good read. By the way, I think you had a little bit of hesitation with this
I
particular
wasn't sure
word.
to read it, my bad.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Do you know what it means though? It says contiguous United States, right? So do you know what that means?
Not sure.
Oh, what does it sound like, right? It sounds like continuous, and
Yeah.
you don't always want to associate words that sound like each other, but in this instance, it works. And so, guys, you won't have a lot of vocabulary on the digital PSATs and SATs, but you will have enough information to really define these vocab words in context. So, Jin, I want you to really look at this prompt to determine the definition of contiguous. Ready? It says that Amanita muscaria, right, was found where only?
Um, Western Alaska.
Yeah, so it's a very small, probably a large part of, I mean, Western Alaska is probably bigger than half of the United States, right? But like it's only found in that one place. Whereas all other red cap mushrooms that kind of look like the Amanita muscarias are found in the contiguous United States. So by context, what do you think it means, Jen?
Like maybe like nearby.
Well, are there any nearby states next to
Oh, it's just
Alaska?
oh wait, probably not.
Yeah, so by contiguous United States, we're probably talking about states that are what?
The closest to Alaska?
No,
Oh my
contiguous
God.
is close. No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Contiguous is close to like this, the word continuous. So the word contiguous conveys states that are connected together. Connected together. So you know how 48 United States are connected together, Jen? So Amanita rubescens are actually found in the heart of the United States, but not in Alaska and probably not in Hawaii. Did you get that?
Yeah.
All right. So Jen, what did you choose as your answer and why?
I chose B.
B's right. Like everybody else, you guys did a wonderful job. And why did you say that, Jen?
I used process of elimination.
Yeah,
All the three others didn't make sense as a good transition.
good. I love that. Guys, you're already utilizing proper strategy, right? Process of elimination is a really good way to double check your answers and make sure that they don't work and they don't. Even though even though these words are very similar in their definition, right, Jen?
They were.
Isn't nevertheless, although and however, all contrasting words?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're very similar. But the way that it's used, none of it makes sense except for although. And of course, if you plug it in, it says, although found in North America, comma, right? That makes proper sense. So really, really good job. For some reason, you guys, the SATs really love transitions and they love testing you on it because they like to have you guys connect ideas together. And also, when you guys are ready to write your college essays, it's important for you guys to think about how your narrative transitions from one idea to another, right? If you want to showcase yourself and your character as being kind and thoughtful or vulnerable, and you want to share anecdotes about who you are, right? And I can always help you with this later on, but think about transitions because your work that you're doing here, though it's grammar based, is going to pay huge dividends when you start to write your college essays and also more serious thesis papers for AP English and college and career and beyond. Okay. Okay. So, really, really good job over there. Guys, I have a question. What do you think is the top most number one and number two transitional words tested as correct answer choices on the digital SATs? So I've taken all of the digital SATs and all of the digital PSATs and I've done the research. And I can tell you that these two transitional words come up most often, most often. Okay. So what do you think they are? So on the chat box, what do you guys think is the digital PSAT and the SAT's most common transitional words, number one and two? What do you think that is? Go ahead and tell me. Good. I love it. Please put your comment to everybody so that we can see. Okay, so we can see. Okay, very, very good. All right, we got some comments coming in. Awesome engagement from y'all. I love it. All right, very, very good. Very, very good. All right. Okay, so everybody thinks like however, although, right? So let me tell you what they are. The number two most common transitional word on the digital test, you guys, drum roll, please, is consequently, consequently. Consequently, you guys, right? Gives you a cause and effect relationship. And cause and effect relationships, guys, tend to be a very, very common relationship between thoughts and logic, right? And so just keep that in mind, right? This is not to say that your answer is going to be consequently, right, when you have the transitional words, but it's the type, the underlying type that gets tested most frequently. So keep that in mind. All right, and number one is actually very close to what all of you guys had written as however, so nice job. It is actually nevertheless, nevertheless. I consider nevertheless the Grey Poupon of transitions, right? It's not like the plain old yellow mustard that you find at the carnival and the fair, right? You're right, but nevertheless is sort of a higher end version of the contrasting word of however, okay? But these contrasting words generally in the family of what they do and what they establish is in fact the most common, okay? All right, very, very good job, you guys. That was awesome. So you guys can see that the reading and the writing questions are quite different from what you may have been used to in preparing for the paper-based test. If this is a totally new experience for you, welcome, and hope you guys are getting a very good initial understanding of both the format and how to approach question types. Now let's end our test prep review, you guys. Perfect timing with math question review. Your math section on the digital PSAT and the SATs, you guys, remain almost exactly the same. And these are the approximate breakdowns of the questions. Don't hold me to this. Again, this is just based upon our initial research. But you're going to get about 4 questions in arithmetic, about 15 in algebra, about 5 in geometry, and then the rest in trig and data analysis. From what I can tell, and from my staff, we've all taken tests. It doesn't seem like anything has changed in terms of what you will be tested on the exam. There may or may not be different questions and different formats, but we just haven't encountered much that gave us alarm. So all the work that you've been doing with math are very similar. You're going to get a question and a multiple choice, and you'll get a handful of grid-ins, and that's it. And that's about it, you guys. So let's do one question types just to kind of feel your mathematical side of the brain. And I don't want to neglect all you mathletes in the webinar and in the recording. So let's do one math question and we'll call it a day and end the session with Q&A. All right, so here's a typical question that you'll see towards the end of a section. So a more difficult question than not. And let's see how we do. Again, take your time. Timing is almost not going to be an issue for the vast majority of you who aren't looking for accommodations, right? So take your time. And even if you have accommodation, you should have extra time and a half with a longer time frame. So it should be much more amenable for everybody. I want to see all work. And when you're ready, we have the group poll. All right, it looks like we're getting a lot, getting a lot of questions, a lot of answers that are quite different. All right, I'm going to end the poll in about 5 seconds. I'll give you guys an extra 10 seconds or so. This question is actually a bit more conceptual than problem-solving based, okay? All right, nice job, everybody. Let me share the results. Boom. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but we got we got every answer choice chosen in the group poll. Looks like we got 1 student choosing A, 6, the majority of us, just by a hair, choosing B, 3 choosing C, and 5 choosing D. All right, so let me choose somebody random here. Let me choose somebody random. Who do we have here? All right. Paula, you want to give it a go on this one?
I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did B.
All right, that sounds good. So Paula, you see this right here? You know
Yeah.
how it says it represents a circle?
Mm-hmm.
So first and foremost, Paula, did you take geometry in school yet?
Yeah,
Okay, did you take it like in ninth grade?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so it's probably a bit of time ago, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you remember the circle formula?
Honestly, no.
That's okay. That's okay. That's why you're here. Guys, the circle formula is x minus h squared, right? All of you guys that have taken our course obviously should know this, is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equaling r squared, where the value of h comma k, note the difference in the negative signs, is the center of the circle, and r is the radius. R is the radius. But note that the radius is designated as a squared valuation. So as a squared valuation. Now, you almost didn't actually even need to know that in order for us to solve this problem. Because this problem is asking you to translate or transform the circle and move it down a notch, right, Paula? Do you see that?
Yeah.
So Paula, you see circle A is here. And all we want to do is we want to move circle A down 2 units. So we're going to actually move this circle down 2 units, right? And so if you move it down, Paula, are you moving the x-axis or are you moving the y-axis?
You're moving the Y.
Yeah, very, very good. Now, Paula, normally if you move down, you would subtract 2, right?
Yeah.
However, since this is in factored form, you're going to express it as an opposite valuation, And also, are we moving the x anywhere? Like, are we moving the circle left or right any value?
No.
No. So x remains the same. So we can eliminate some of the answer choices already, Paula. Which one can we eliminate?
A and C.
Good job, Paula. Look at you. You're a master mathematician already. Now, we're at 50-50. Now, remember what I said. Even though normally if we translate the circle down, we go down by -2, this is actually expressed in factored form. So we're not going to translate this by subtracting 2. We're going to actually go the opposite direction. So we're going to actually add 2 because it's in factored form. And so, Paula, what's our answer?
D.
Boom. Nice job. Very, very good. Done like an absolute test prep veteran. All right, guys, that's it for our review. You can see is a typically hard problem that you would face on the SATs, right? On a paper-based test. There's really nothing really changes. The only thing changing is that you have a much more variant and adaptability and also the access to calculator usage. Okay, you guys? All right. That was so good, you guys. You did such a good job. Let's finish our session with some Q&A. These are some of the questions that you guys had asked in our survey prior to this webinar. So thanks for submitting these questions. I think we've already answered the vast majority of them, but I'm going to go through them. And for you parents that are here joining us and looking at the recording, hopefully this will also answer some of the questions that you might have had. So let's go through this very quickly, you guys, and we'll end the session. Really, really nice webinar here, you guys. All right. Will the PSATs help me with college admissions? Generally, the answer is no. It's not going to help you as much as your grades, the rigorousness of your coursework, like your AP or IB or CHS courses, right? And of course, your extracurriculars and then your essays and all that other stuff, right? All those will count a lot more than your PSATs. If nothing else, your PSATs will help because it'll help you to prepare for your SATs, and you might get a bunch of money to go to college. I don't know about you, but I like an extra $2,500 to pay for my tuition because Lord knows it's not cheap to go to college these days. It could help you a little bit if you become like a national merit finalist and you can add that to your honors and accomplishments. So there is a little bit of a plus factor, but generally speaking, you guys, it's not going to be a huge factor. Okay. Okay. Next point, how should we prepare differently for the new format? Hopefully that has been answered for you guys, right? The new format is one passage, one question for both sections and both topics of reading, writing, and math. Right? And will the SAT practice suffice, and should we practice on digital mostly? My recommendation is to do a mixture of both. There's such a shortage of the digital materials out there that you can't only practice on digital. You have to use whatever resources that we have on Khan Academy, on paper-based linear question sets. We have question banks, especially for the math sections on our Testing for Good software that you guys are already enrolled into, or you guys, I will enroll you into it if you're not part of the program, so you can practice. For the reading and the writing sections, there are short passage practice that you can engage in. We have some of those already developed. I can share that with you. So you can't do just digital. You have to do a mixture of both. How do you double check your answers? We just saw that, right? There are variant ways to do that for reading and writing. You want to plug them back in, make sure it makes sense. You can use process of elimination, and there's strategies that are involved, particular to individual types. What would you have to score to be eligible for the National Merit Recognition? We already answered that, you guys. For the Pennsylvania test takers, your scaled score has to be about 218 plus, right? Which is equivalent to like a 1470 or so, probably closer to 1480 at this stage. Is there any particular strategy when taking a digital test compared to the paper test? Yeah, the strategy is totally different. And we just covered that today in our webinar. So hopefully you guys have a very strong familiarity and an action plan on tackling the digital test. All right, this is a really good question. My eyes get tired when looking at the screens. I work better on paper. Any tips? Yes, I have lots of tips. Number one, get a pair of blue light glasses. All right, you guys. I wear glasses all the time, and my glasses have the extra blue light blockers. For you guys that don't wear glasses, or if you guys wear contacts and glasses, make sure to get the blue light cover. It blocks the blue lights, which absolutely tires your eyes and your mind really quickly, right? And that's why on your iPhones or Androids, I don't have an Android, so I don't know if Androids do this, but you can automatically program your phone by bedtime so that if you're looking at your phone, all the blue light is blocked, because blue light scientifically is a stimulant, right? And so you don't want to be stimulated as you're trying to go to bed. And that's why, you guys, if you don't have a blue light blocker on your iPhone, you'll probably stay up most nights watching endless video streams on TikTok or whatever, right? And that's why you get addicted to these things, right? And so that's one way for you guys to practice. The other way is, obviously practice on the digital space. For those of you guys that aren't used to taking digital tests, just practicing will absolutely help you gain further endurance. I have a lot more to say about this, but I think that should suffice. All right, will SAT practice suffice, or should we practice digital mostly? I think that has been answered already, so it's just a redundant question. And then finally, I wanted to see an example of a digital practice test if that was possible. Yes, that's not only possible, but let me show you where to get that. So the resources here that are shared is accessible to all of you guys. You guys can just Google it and find it. Via the College Board, the Blue Book app has 4 adaptive SAT exams. It also has 4 linear paper-based exams, but it's the same questions. So try not to take this at all. Really, really try to take the digital adaptive tests only. And then there's 1 adaptive PSAT exam plus 1 linear test as well. My recommendation is for you guys to take the PSAT digital test first to see how you do, review your answers, and then go ahead and try your hand in the adaptive test. But again, keep in mind, you guys, that these are severely limited. We will have more resources for you in the weeks and the months to come, but that's about it for now. The College Board has said that they're going to release 1 more digital test soon, so look for that as it arrives. Khan Academy has practice question types by topic for reading and writing and math. They are singularly based, so you can practice one by one by one. They have video lessons, so you'll have access to those resources for free. And then, of course, we have Testing for Good and Pittsburgh Prep, projected by January of next year. We should have a full, robust 1,000 question bank plus extra practice exams for you guys to take. We're projected to have anywhere from 4 to 5 practice exams for you to take. So that should really robustly round out the resources that you have available for you as you study for the digital test. Okay. All right, guys, I want to thank you for your time. All of you guys did such a wonderful job on a school night. It was so good to see you. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask. You can type it up in the chat box. Just ask away here. I'll be more than happy to answer for the remaining time that we have. All right. But I do know it's a school night, so I want you to go to bed, get a good night's sleep, and continue to focus on your schoolwork. All right. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? All right, you guys, thank you so very much for your time. It was really, really wonderful to see you, everybody. All right, you guys, have a wonderful night, okay? Bye, everybody. You're welcome, you guys.
Thank
You're welcome.
you.
Of
Bye.
course. Bye, bye, guys.
Excuse me, sir. I
Oh, Neelish, yes.
so this is Aditya. I just had a small question about the circle problem.
Oh, of course, Aditya.
Um,
Let me go ahead and stop the recording here for